This video is mostly for the people that are seeking that template and looking for the patterns. That is a very important thing. We are the ones decoding what is in this ancient material. The template that I talk about is the self-healing template. There's a template called the Hero's Journey, identified by Joseph Campbell. However, I have further identified that as when you play it out completely in your psyche, that there are very specific self-healing steps that you take along the way, similar to what you would find in Buddhism or Taoism. And that is contained in, well, that template exists. And what is framed on that? Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, occultic teachings like the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. All of those contain this nested template. However, a Hindu would not listen to me and say, you're teaching Hinduism. A Buddhist would not listen to me and say, you're teaching Buddhism, etc. This template is something that is inside of them, and that is what we are looking for. Metaphor heads, think of this. The Ark of the Covenant. Pretty box being carried, can't look inside of it. There's something inside of it, though. That is the story. The story is the Ark. It is carrying something nested inside of it, and only some people are going to get into it. And that's what we are doing. We are looking for the way in. We're looking to find what is inside that box. We're dissecting it. And we do see patterns. The Enuma Elish, this is the Babylonian creation epic, also includes the Atrahasis, the first creation flood myth. This is where people are created to help work. They get to be too many. The raucous, it's noisy. The gods want to kill it off. They have a flood. How does that sound in Genesis? There's too many people. They don't follow the word of God anymore. They're too raucous, too crazy. God wants to kill them off, flood off the world and start over again. These are not literal stories. I don't know why. I mean, it's very common for some people to say, oh, that just happened. I really struggle with how they think that. But the story contains something very important. I remember long ago, one of my first exciting pattern connections was karma, and the measure you mete unto others will be likewise meted unto you. I always thought, wow, I know what that means. Karma means, yeah, there's this reciprocation, there's this going back and forth, conduct, acting out some sort of a return. The measure you mete unto others will be likewise meted unto you. You can see those are the same thing, that it's the same teaching. And it just has, it's carried in different verbiages all. Those are easy elements to see in this template, but there are parts that are not easy to see. The template is still there, but the flood actually, when you play that out inside, that is analogous to we have become, our world has become raucous. As we start out in life, everything is okay, but as time goes on, we accumulate habits, ideas, beliefs. Maybe we come from a place we would like to leave behind. For whatever reason, we are the ones that have issues that we want to resolve. And the flood then is analogous to a rebirth, purging oneself out. This is my world. It's got too full of things. Now I must go in and start all over again and find a simple life. It's that finding enlightenment, finding the kingdom of heaven within, finding nirvana, inner peace, all of those. That is what this template is for. Now, I'm pretty convinced that nobody's stealing from anybody, that at the core, there are wise people that know, boy, there's one truth, there's one thing we got to figure out. This is it, but it's not going in the population. So they create stories in a population that really doesn't have media and needs something to do when the stories become elaborate. But the stories also contain other lessons in them. They're very complex. Leviticus, I'm going to say, is going to be also structuring life for what's going to amount to be kind of a primitive people when you see what they're doing. And we can kind of look at that. We'll get into that a little bit as we get into Leviticus. But I'm not ready to go there. I do know that if I go and teach it a little bit, more will come to me. So what I want to do in this case, though, is demonstrate that correlation between Leviticus and something that Jesus says later, because a lot of people think, whoa, we don't make connections like that. Leviticus is harsh and hurtful. Jesus is loving and kind. How can that be? All right, let's take a look at it. Different time, different people, they had to change analogs. 1,500 years before Jesus, yeah, Leviticus was okay. Later on, no, it's not. We're not doing that anymore. It has to evolve because the people have. And how does that fly in the population? Oh, we just call it a new covenant. Oh, God changed his mind. Now it's this way. So you see how easy that works. Okay, I'm not going to do a lot of setup on this. Leviticus, I'm going to jump into one chunk right here that I can dissect out and show a similarity between Jesus's work, but actually that is not doing justice to Leviticus. I'll let you know right now that there's, from Aaron and the whole structure that comes on, there's a build up to this where this is. However, it's very big and let's leave it alone for now. I just want to grab this piece out because it shows how to make the comparisons between the template steps that might not look like they match up quite as easily as others, like the flood story or the karma story, other things that are very easy to see. Before I go on, I feel like saying, just from previous experience, Leviticus, I know, can be incredibly contentious, with people on both sides being very angry about it because people act upon some of the words in there without interpretation, and they can be incredibly hurtful words, and some people use them to justify hurting other people. It's a tough place to go. I'm looking at this as a scholar. I'm looking for something inside, and I want to understand the material and find out where it's coming from. I think when we are emotionally, we have walls or barriers up against the material we're looking at, we're not going to see what's really there. So we have to kind of detach from that. Okay, I'm going to read from, it's chapter 21. It's a section called The Holiness of the Priests. And I'm going to read just verse 16 all the way to the end of that chapter, down to 24. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to Aaron and say, no one of your offspring throughout their generations who has a blemish may approach to offer the food of his God. For no one who has a blemish shall draw near, one who is blind or lame, or one who has a mutilated face or a limb too long, or one who has a broken foot or a broken hand, or a hunchback, or a dwarf, or a man with a blemish in his eyes, or an itching disease, or scabs, or crushed testicles. No descendant of Aaron the priest who has a blemish shall come near to offer the Lord's offerings by fire. Since he has a blemish, he shall not come near to offer the food of his God. He may eat the food of his God, of the most holy as well as of the holy, but he shall not come near the curtain or approach the altar, because he has a blemish, that he may not profane my sanctuaries, for I am the Lord. I sanctify them." Thus Moses spoke to Aaron and to his sons and to all the people of Israel. Okay, let's break that down a little bit. Let's go back to the first couple of lines right there. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to Aaron and say, no one of your offspring throughout their generations who has a blemish may approach to offer the food of his God." Okay, what I'm going to say right now is, what are they doing? What is their time? And it's a bigger block of instructions. They're talking about making an offering to God. In their time, that's how they're doing it. They're offering up burnt offerings, animals dead and burned on a pyre. That's how they're praising God in the beginning. And they're doing that for what reason? The reason that they're doing that is not because God asked them to do that. That's something structured into the religion itself. What they are doing as a people is they are going, oh my God, we need to do this to get God's help. They are invoking God's good graces. When you go to the altar to leave gifts, what are you doing that for? Here, God, I love you. Please bless me. Why else would you do it? You might do it, here, God, I love you. Don't bless me. But most people would probably, if you're really Christian, you'd say, here, God, this is for you. And if I'm worthy, please bless me, or something like that. At any rate, the altar is that. That is what it is for. You are, in your life, looking to have a better life. You're looking for God to smile upon you. And this says, no one of your offspring throughout their generations who has a blemish may approach to offer the food of his God. So, and then it goes on with the crippling, the arms, the eyes, all the other things to make this sound like if you've got some sort of a physical ailment, don't even bother. You are deficient in the eyes of God. How does that sound? Let's jump to a Jesus verse. And I am going to go to Matthew 5:23 and 24. I'm not going to read this whole section here. I want to kind of try to keep this short. In this variant, the Lord is already speaking. So when you are offering your gift at the altar, if you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother or sister, and then come and offer your gift. So what this is getting to, and in the entire block here, this is a part of Jesus' teachings, and this one is concerning anger. It starts out saying, if you have heard it said of ancient times, you shall not murder. If you have anger with your brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment. All of those things. It builds up to this right here, and what this is getting to, as we take this and mirror it in the psyche and play it out inside, what this is telling us is that if we are seeking the graces of a good life, and we realize that we've got issues that we haven't resolved, it says your brother or sister has something against you. Something in life isn't okay, or I have against them. Somehow there is an internal conflict that my life is not going to be graced, even if I'm asking for it to be graced. Please grace me. Forget that I hate those people and those over there and this happened and I'm angry about that, but oh my God, please grace me. It's not going to happen. Why? Because of all that other stuff. You have to go resolve that ought before you give your gift. And I'll leave that one there because I want to move on. We go back to the first one, and what we see is from 1,500 years earlier, they're telling you that if you have a blemish or something wrong with you, to not offer the food of the God. Do not leave your gift at the altar. Do not seek God's good graces because you have a blemish. And all of those other things, if you want to look at this, check it out. Look at this. No one of your offspring throughout their generations who has a blemish may approach to offer the food of his God. There's the line. Then it goes on. Anyone who has a blemish shall draw near. No one who is blind or lame, or one who has a mutilated face, or a limb too long. So it starts getting into very specific details. But what did the first line say? No one of your offspring throughout their generations who has a blemish may approach to offer the food of his God. That was complete. Spiritual lessons are most complete when they're short and succinct. Once you start detailing them, that's for the population. Let go. That's complete. Somebody not understanding is going to say, oh my God, tell me what that means. What do I need to let go of? And they start detailing it. Well, you got to let go of this idea and that thought and this thing that you learned way back then. Let go of that. Let go of this belief. Let go of that angst. That's all I can think of right now. Person has a bunch of other stuff inside, but those weren't named. So they're thinking, okay, I don't need to let that stuff go. If you say, let go, it's complete. It's encompassing. It covers everything. Once you start detailing it, you minimize it. Somebody's going to fall outside of the category of a million labels and say, it doesn't apply to me. It's everything. So it goes on to those other things. What is it doing then? I think in this case, they're starting to just deal with their population. This is what they have, and what do they have? They're really looking down upon people that are, what? Maybe they wouldn't want as genetic stock, as reproduction. I don't know. I'm trying to look at this from the perspective of somebody 3,500 years later wondering why they would use verbiage like this. Are there people blind and lame, mutilated face, limb too long, broken? Imagine being born with an affliction in that time, and you're just a regular person that's got something wrong with you, that you were born that way through no fault of your own, and through life you're like, yeah, you don't get to go. Nah, you're deficit in the eyes of creation. That's how Judaism is starting here. Well, that's not so fun. That's the outer looking shell. The inner looking shell is still there, but now they're building and creating something for their society because they got a million people with nothing to do. And they're giving them rules and regulations and based in fear and ideas and how do we succeed in life. This is very important for them to have mentally, but the structure of it is such that you look and go, wow, I wish they hadn't done it like that, but there it is. It is there. Is it okay for crippled people to go to the altar? Sure. What's wrong? Why would that not be okay? It would not be okay if you're an individual that instead of saying, okay, now I have aught against my brother and sister, or anger or something against them, which is analogous to having issues that you have not got resolved, that if you change those analogs to now you have an illness, we'll call it an illness, blemishes, you can't see right, you've got some physical ailment. And now they've just shifted the analogs from an anger thing to a physical illness thing, but they're still carrying the same lessons that if you want to provide an offering to God for good graces, that you must resolve the issues. And that in the first one, it says if you have a problem, you can't even do it. It doesn't go so far as to tell you go resolve it first. That comes about later in the teaching. They're not identical, but these are the parts we're looking for that are all similar. And as different as they sound, they're not. Anyway, okay, I just wanted to put this one out. I'm not ready to go after Leviticus. And certainly there's a lot more than what I just covered in here as well, giving food to your God. There's a lot of verbiage in this that makes you realize that there's something different going on. You have to feed your higher self. There's a part of you that needs to be healed, and that is laced into these in the densest of ways. That is also in a time 3,500 years ago that's hard for us to fathom. So we got to shift and get there. Yeah, there's more to this verse, but again, these are kind of the patterns that emerge. The more you look at it, and you're playing it out inside, and you're realizing that template is there, and you're shifting the analogs. The analogs are moving. But then there's density, layers of density that goes with it as well. Jesus seems a little bit more abbreviated, a little more compact. Yeah. Anyway, all right. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.